South Africa has the biggest wealth gap in the world, yet we are never taught about money. And if you continue to follow the current financial system, you are going to be broke. In this video, I'll show you the flaws of our current system and how you can stop falling into that trap. Hi, my name is Yolanda. I'm a wealth advisor, and on this channel, I give you easy, actionable tips, content, and strategies that you can use to manage money well, live abundantly, and build generational wealth. South Africans are drowning in debt. Over the past 6 years, the average loan size in South Africa has increased by 45%, although the number of debt obligations fell 19%. And this is an indicator that consumers are taking on more debt per credit agreement. Debtbusters said that with no real increase in income levels since 2016, South Africans are increasingly supplementing their lifestyles with unsecured credit. So inflation is skyrocketing. The prices of everything is getting more and more expensive. And if you keep blindly following the system that the majority of people are following, you are going to end up like the majority of people, and you do not want that for yourself. So I'm going to show you a few ways that the system is keeping many people poor and how you can stop doing these things and stop living like the majority of the people. Number one, no financial education. The communist concentration camp masquerading as the South African education system does not prepare students with financial education. So growing up in an Indian house, academics was a big thing, yet none of my studies prepared me for the practical side of handling money and personal finance. And that's not how I want my children to grow up. So I wrote the book, Financial Literacy for Kids, and developed the Financial Education for Kids course. And if you want this for your kids, you can purchase them down below in the relevant links. But as an adult, the first bit of financial education that you need to know and to understand is that there are two different ways in which you can make money. You can make money from your labor, where you trade your time for rands. Or two, you can make money from your capital, where you deploy your money into something of value, and then your money is making money, is making money, is making money. And our current system trains employees. Yet there are no jobs, and there are so many unemployed graduates. So you go to school, you do well, you get a good degree, and with a hope you can get a good job, and you can trade your time for rands. So the idea of studying is so that you can get into this high-paying job and you can go and become a doctor and an attorney and maybe an accountant or an engineer to be a high-paid worker. So you're a high-paid employee. But the economic system that we have right now, the highest paid people are not the most highly paid people in the country. They're not highly paid workers. It's the people that know how to deploy the capital. Patrice, Rupert, Gumede. For example, you climb the corporate ladder. You go from a regular worker to a supervisor, to a manager, to a vice president, director, eventually CEO. So school wants us to be climbing that corporate ladder. But what people who understand the economic system don't want is just to climb that corporate ladder. They want to own that corporate ladder. Remember, real wealth is in a capitalist society, not socialist. Capitalists deploy their capital. They build systems, technology, employees, etc. And they add value. We as consumers, we want some of that value and we buy it. So the people who become insanely successful understand this and they're working to grow the system. They want to invest in capital because now your money is working to increase value instead of just labor. Now there's a limit to how much you can work. And because there's a limit on how much value you can add directly as an employee alone. 8-9 hours a day. What happens to the other 15-16 hours? But there's no limit as to what you can do with capital. Now, before you say I'm disadvantaged, I didn't have rich parents, how am I supposed to take advantage of this system? So here's what you need to understand. You need to use your labor to generate capital. That way you can use and deploy this capital into income generation, assets, income, appreciating assets. This is how you become wealthy in this economic system, not with satellite TV. You become wealthy by using your capital. It does not take vast amount of money. However, vast amount of money doesn't make it easier. You can get there a lot quicker. But more than that, it takes discipline, it takes consistency, and it takes financial education. Now, if you want to improve your health, it's going to take you to be disciplined and consistent with your nutrition, with your fitness. If you want to learn a new language, it takes discipline and consistency and time into learning that language. When you deploy capital, you can earn a piece of the profits. Now, you could be a high-paying person, you could be a low-paid person. It doesn't matter here. We all have that same entry point. When you're working for the owner of the company, you can get paid a lot of money as an employee. Doctors make tons of money. Executives make tons of money. But at the end of the day, you're still working for the owner of that company. Now, there's a big difference between salary and income, and also the profit that a company generates. The profit is separate from your income. Now, what these people here, the investors, they are people who deploy their capital, and the capital is working for them. And it's not just for a salary, it's for the profit. They're working for a piece of the profit. So I'll give you an example. Let's say I start my company and I'm selling my financial education material, my books, my courses. I make $1 million in a financial year. $1 million rand. Let's say $1 million rand. Wish I could have $1 million. $1 million rand in the financial year. But not that whole million is not mine. All right. I've got expenses. I got marketing expense. Let's say 100,000. A printing expense. Another 100,000. Then I get my salespeople. They got to go out and make sure my books are sold in the right kind of bookstores. Maybe that's another 400,000 for the year. So what is that? 600,000 in total. So 400,000 in my bank account. So I get this 400,000 as the owner of the company because I own the company. I own the equity in the company. And that's what wealthy people are looking for. The richest people in South Africa get more than 50% of their income from capital gains. That's when you sell your equity in the assets that you have. And you need to understand that wealthy people, they're not working for a salary. They're not looking for that 5-6% increase per year. They want to see how they can drive more sales, how their businesses can add more value. And when that happens, their businesses make money and they get a piece of that profit. And you can do that for yourself as well. This might mean investing in companies or maybe investing in starting your own company. If you have this kind of equity structure, it might investing in property, investing in startups. You want to use your money to buy assets and invest. That way you can build equity in companies or property or some other kind of asset that would make you an equity owner to get a share of the pie because now you're working for profits. Now you have a team of people working to help grow the value of that company. Now there's the other debate about how much employees should be getting paid and all the talk around minimum wage, what people should be getting, and that's fine. But what you need to understand as a financially educated person is the concept of fiduciary duty. Fiduciary duty is who you owe your allegiance to. Who do you need to take care of first? And the easy way to understand this is the board. The board who runs the company. Their duty is to the shareholder first. It's not to the employees first. Yes, we want employees to be motivated, well compensated enough to come in every day, produce a good product, produce a good service. But the first loyalty of that board is profits and profits for the shareholder. And technically, if you look at it, in the big listed companies, we are the shareholders. The employees are the shareholders because your pension and your private investments are in these big companies. So for these people, the number one goal is to drive profits higher for the shareholder. So if you're just an employee and you're working there, you're constantly going to be asking and wondering, when are you going to be getting more money? The company is doing so well. But you have to understand here how the system works. It's designed to benefit the person who deployed the capital because that's the person that's taking all the risk, not the person that's just working in the business. So you can do either of two things. Go work for a company, a different company who's going to treat you better and give you the kind of money that you want, which is very difficult in South Africa because of how the environment is. The cost of doing business is expensive. Utilities, fuel, the chokehold of the unions. Okay, the increasingly shrinking middle class, or more companies competing for one set of consumer because that's where most of the money is. So you can either build your wealth by going and working for somebody else, or you can deploy your capital That way you earn equity in companies and in properties. You can build your wealth by understanding how the system works. By the way, in South Africa, employees pay a lot more taxes than business owners. Why? Because business owners are taking the risk. They're creating jobs, they're creating infrastructure, they're creating value, and they're compensated by less taxes. This is why financial education is so important, and this is the one thing I wish schools would have taught me, and I wish schools would be teaching this to people nowadays so that they can understand how to win in the system, because rich people and wealthy people understand this. Most of us are never taught this. 2 is overconsumption. Here we all like to look rich but are not rich. As a nation, we are a nation of consumers. We are not producers. So much of our manufactured goods are imported. Cars, even the vehicles that are manufactured here, they're not by South African companies. Toyota, Ford, Kia, those are not South African companies. They come here and they build here. Okay, so it's not surprising that we have so many consumers in this country and so few producers because of the number of socialists in the country. Society measures success by material markers, by your car, your house, your clothes, where your kids go to school. People are trying to look more successful than they actually are. Ironically, that's the number one reason why people are broke today, because you're spending all your money trying to look rich. The mindset of trying to look rich before you're actually rich is what is keeping people broke, because now you've made money. And the problem is you want everybody else to know that you've made the money, and you go and buy all this stuff. As soon as you get paid, you got to make sure Vodacom is paid because you upgraded that cell phone. You got to make sure BMW is paid because you bought that new car. You got to make sure your bank is paid because throughout the month you've been swiping your high interest credit card. You got to make sure everybody else is paid, and then you want to build wealth with the scraps. Once you break out of that mindset, then it becomes a huge game changer. Number 3 is over-financing. And FNB said that its data showed that more than half of middle-income consumers spend income in less than 5 days after receiving it. So the lender categorizes middle-income consumers as those who earn between 7,000 and 60,000 Rand a month. Another survey published by Worldwide Works that was commissioned by Time Bank showed that while many South Africans have a monthly budget, 76% still run out of money before the end of the month. What you need to understand is we live in a spending culture. South Africa is a fake it till you make it culture, unfortunately. We buy fancy cars before investing in property. Our culture is designed to make you spend money, which is why you need to have financial education to understand how all of this works. That way you don't go into debt, trying to buy a whole bunch of things that you don't need, because now you're a slave to the banks. You work for the government first because you got to pay taxes first. Then you work for the banks. And last, you're working for yourself and your family. And at that rate, you'll never become wealthy because all your money is going out to make your banker rich, to make Takealot rich, to make BMW rich, to make Woolworths rich. So you got to be gaining assets and getting rid of your liabilities. Assets put money into your pocket. Liabilities take money out of your pocket. And if you can't afford to buy it cash, you can't afford it. You can use debt to make you wealthier, but wealthy people are not going into debt to buy cell phones, to buy cars, to buy things that they can't afford. Wealthy people are using debt to make themselves wealthier by using this money to finance assets, which actually make them money instead of buying liabilities, which are losing them money. Number 4, you're confusing assets with liabilities. So it's simple. Assets put money into your pocket, liabilities take it out. Like the whole big debate about whether your house is an asset. But really, if it's taking money out of your pocket, it's a liability. So you got to have the financial savviness to know how to structure these things, what entities you can use, what tax breaks you can use, to how to structure your assets in a way where it's not a liability, but it's an asset. Now, if you think about it, right? You buy a home, you're paying your bond, there's an interest portion, insurance, credit life on the bond, maintenance costs, upgrading this, upgrading that. All of that is taking money out of your pocket. Now, I'm not saying don't buy property. I'm saying be financially savvy enough to know how to structure things. 5, you need to understand the idea of our money. What are you working for? Most of the time, we assume that our rands is actually money. But in reality, the rand is the most volatile currency in the world, and it does not store value well. 150,000 in the year 2000 has the same buying power of 50,000 rands today. So now if you're going to work for this money and you're saving this money in your bank account, 3-4% per year interest, yet inflation is sitting at 5.8% at the time of recording this video, your money isn't growing in the bank because your bank is paying you less interest lower than inflation. You're actually losing value every single day. Your savings are losing value, effectively making you poor each and every day by just holding it in the bank, because inflation is a lot higher than the interest that the bank is paying you. Money at its core definition is supposed to be some sort of stored value. So if you earn 50,000 rand, because of the labor exchange, you put in the labor and you get 50,000 in value. The money that you have is supposed to store that 50,000 rand. But paper money doesn't really do that. And paper rands is just a means of exchange. It's a type of currency. It's the way for us to exchange our money. It's a way for us to buy things and do transactions with. It's not a good way to store our wealth. If we gave up our rands today and started using monopoly money, then what is money? It's the way that you store the value of the earnings that you have received. Traditionally, this would be something like physical gold, because gold is a store of value. It takes time, effort, and labor to mine. And also gold, if you own some physical gold, is a real representation of the store of value. Now, we just talked about the difference in liability and asset. And this is one of the reasons why it's so important for you to convert your rands into assets. Not just so you can become wealthy or create cash flow or you can take advantage of the system. It's because you can actually preserve the value of your money. Because if you don't, your money is going to lose value each and every day in the bank. This is happening now to so many people. Inflation is known as the silent tax. It is the tax on people that don't understand what inflation is. Inflation is the tax on the financially uneducated, because as inflation continues to be very high, the value of your money will continue to lose value each and every day, making you poor. So people who pay this tax are the people that don't understand finance. So if I haven't convinced you now about the importance of investing your money, and if I haven't convinced you to invest to grow assets and accumulate assets instead of liabilities, and if you just get cash, well, that cash is going to make you poor each and every day, because the value of your rands is dropping while the price of everything around you is getting more and more expensive, which is why you want to at least preserve the value of your money. You have to own assets, because assets will help you preserve the value that you have in your wealth. Now, this doesn't mean every investment is going to make you money. No, it doesn't work like that. Investing has risks, but it's even more riskier not investing, because you're guaranteed to lose. So if you are ready for an investment consultation, click the link below so we can start working together on how we can start preserving your wealth and growing your wealth.